Good morning.
Good morning.
Whenever we gather in this sacred place, it is made more sacred by the presence and attention of each and every one of us. Whether we are here in the sanctuary or attending by live stream from far or near or viewing sometime in the future, we are here together. I invite you here in person to turn to the camera and wave to our live streaming friends. Before we greet here one another in the sanctuary, we need to talk about the costume parade for a minute. It's happening immediately after the greeting time, so if you're planning on participating, please gather in the back in the foyer where Brenna is waving during our greeting time, back over there. For those here in the sanctuary, let us now take a moment to turn and greet one another as we also gather for the costume parade.
Good morning, and welcome to Winchester Unitarian Society, a refuge of progressive religion in the Mystic Valley. I'm Peter McEntee, serving as your worship associate today. I hope you like my costume. It came as another old white guy. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith does not require us to believe in any particular tenet or creed, and among us we believe many different things. But our faith does require of us that we do certain things, and among them we must recognize and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And following from that, our faith calls on us to radically welcome everyone and anyone who chooses to gather with us. Whether you're checking us out for the first time or you've been coming here for years, we are very glad that you're here with us. There are just a couple of announcements. Don't forget, the Haunted House is this Friday and Saturday night. Pre-sale tickets are on sale in the Sims room immediately following the service. Also, the Ministerial Search Committee would like to remind those of you participating remotely that the last focus group on Zoom will take place today, 10 minutes after the service. The link for the meeting is included in the most recent edition of Highlights, and it will also be displayed on the slideshow in the live stream. We want to hear your voices, so thank you. Thanks for all of the food donations brought in this morning as part of our ongoing support for the Council for Social Concern Food Pantry. As you know, with the government shutdown, programs like SNAP will be on hold starting next week. So these ongoing donations are extremely important. Starting next Sunday, we will invite you to sign up to provide a Thanksgiving basket filled with a list of food items that will help to create a Thanksgiving meal as we do each year. We will again be offering two options. You can either pay for a basket, which will be filled by Stop and Shop, or you can shop on your own. More information will be in this coming week's highlights. The Social Action and Outreach Committee will have representatives at coffee hour starting next Sunday to help you sign up by November 16th. There will be information in the highlights announcement on how to sign up if you're not able to be there in person. Our goal this year is to provide 60 baskets. Please consider supporting one, two on your own, or collaborating with others if that's more feasible for you. Thank you. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for the spirit of worship.
Spirit of life and hope, we turn our minds and our hearts again toward Thee. Awaken us again to the mysteries that humble us, the realities that orient us, the truths that judge and guide us, the beauty that informs and ravishes us, the love that nurtures us, the fellowship that sustains us, the creativity that heightens and deepens and reorders our living, that we may give ourselves an honesty and openness to the larger life before us. May these words from Clark Dewey Wells guide us now into this sacred time and space. Come, let us worship together.
I now invite Otto Spencer to come up and light our chalice as I read these words by Betts Winnicky. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. And now, please rise in body or in spirit as we sing hymn number 389, Gathered Here. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one small body, gathered here in the middle and the power gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near, Spirit, draw near.
I invite those who are young and young at heart to come forward for a story. Morning, everybody. I see a lot of great costumes. The countdown continues. How many more days till Halloween? Does anybody know? It's Friday. 5 days. 5 more days. Can you stand it? All right. I have a short story for you all today. In this story, a word is repeated. The word is maybe. When I put my hands like this, I want you all to say maybe. Can you say that with me once? Maybe. Okay. This story comes from China, which is halfway around the world from where we are. It is a parable from the Taoist tradition. Does anyone know what I mean by a parable? Who knows what a parable is? Anybody? Milo.
It's sort of like a short story with a little moral.
Yeah, so a story with a moral, a story that teaches a lesson, right? So let's see if we can figure out what lesson this story is trying to tell us. Okay, the story is from long ago in China, before there were cars and when all men who reached a certain age had to be soldiers and fight in wars. This process was called conscription, when the government would come and sign up all able-bodied young men to join the army to fight. Luckily, we don't do that anymore. In this long ago time in China, there was a village. And in this village, there was a farmer. One day, the farmer went out to the stable to hook up his horse to his plow. However, the stall door was open, and the horse was nowhere to be found. It had run away. The man's neighbors told him, "Oh, how unlucky. We're so sorry that your horse ran away." And the farmer said, "Maybe." The farmer Days later, the horse returned, and with him came 7 wild horses. The villagers all jumped for joy for their farmer friend, saying, "How lucky you are! What good fortune you have!" The farmer just said, "Maybe." So days later, the farmer, I can't keep track. The farmer started to train the wild horses. He got his son to help him. One morning, a wild horse kicked his son hard in the leg and broke his leg. The villagers said how sorry they all were for the farmer and his son. "That's terrible," they all said. And the farmer said, "Maybe." A few days later, the farmer was training the horses alone because his son was lying down with his leg in a cast. Suddenly, a group of soldiers entered the village. They made an announcement that the army was conscripting all young, able-bodied men to come and fight in the army. The army took all of the village's young men, but they did not take the farmer's son because he had a broken leg and he couldn't walk. The villagers told the farmer how lucky he was that his son broke his leg, and the farmer just said, "Maybe." So, What lesson do you think this story is trying to teach us? Yes, Olson. Stuff turns around very quickly, yeah. Jeremiah.
When everything seems bad, sometimes because of the way it is, things can be better and luckier because that happened.
Right, so something that you think might be really bad could turn out to be better.
They got 7 more horses.
Exactly.
The son broke the leg.
Right, every one of those situations could be lucky or unlucky, right? What were you going to say, Ira?
I'm going to say that small actions can affect the future.
Small actions can affect the future greatly. Yeah, that's also true. So the Taoist tradition focuses a lot on finding our own inner harmony in what they call the way, which is the underlying natural order of the universe. In this tradition, a person seeks to cultivate what they call wu wei. Does anyone say wu wei? Or effortless action. That's what wu wei means, effortless action. Wu wei doesn't mean you do nothing. It means that you try to act in sync with the universe and the world rather than forcing or striving to get your way against the current of what's happening. I think the farmer has wu wei down pat. What do you think? May? All right. Please, grown-ups, please sing the children and teachers to religious education. The words are in your order of service. I dipped on my punch line.
As we enter now into our time of prayer and meditation, I invite you to get settled into your space. Maybe you close your eyes. Maybe you ground yourself by placing both feet on the floor. Maybe you take a deep breath in and out. Let us now reflect together on these words adapted from Susan Sakoki. Day by day, month by month, year by year, we are confronted with all that we do not know, that we do not understand, that we do not grasp. Sometimes we are humbled by this knowledge and say, God, it is too wonderful for me to comprehend, but I know this universe is more grand and more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. And I give thanks for the blessings of being here and seeing, hearing, experiencing, and sensing all that is so wonderful around and in me. Sometimes we are saddened by this knowledge and say, O merciful Spirit, we need to have the burden of hurt and suffering removed from us. Grant us the courage, the wisdom, and fortitude to bear the pain of living. Send us those who will carry our burdens for a short while, and send us those who will comfort us with their healing words, thoughts, and presence. Sometimes we are angered by this knowledge and say, in the name of justice and compassion, if it be in our power, give us the strength and ability to right the wrongs, for we do not, nor does any person in the world deserve this. Sometimes we are made joyous by this knowledge, and we say, Spirit of life who blesses our world, we rejoice and cheer for our glorious life. Sometimes we are made curious by this knowledge and say, holy and inexplicable in this life, I have no idea what happened or how it happened, but somehow, some way, something changed, and I am free to explore new ways of being. Please always let me continue to search for the unknown in myself and others. You may come forward and now and light a candle if you wish. Let us kindle the light.
Our first reading today is entitled Gift by W.S. Merwin. I have to trust what was given to me, if I'm to trust anything. It led the stars over the shadowless mountain. What does it not remember in its night and silence? What does it not hope, knowing itself no child of time? What did it not begin? What will it not end? I have to hold it up in my hands as my ribs hold up my heart. I have to let it open its wings and fly among the gifts of the unknown. Again, in the mountain, I have to turn to the morning. I must be led by what was given to me, as streams are led by it, and braiding flights of birds, and gropings of veins, the learning of plants, the thankful days, breath by breath. I call to it, nameless one, oh, invisible, untouchable, free. I am nameless. I am divided. I am invisible. I am untouchable and empty. Nomad, live with me. Be my eyes, my tongue and my hands, my sleep and my rising out of chaos. Come and be given.
Our second reading this morning is words from Chet Ramo, professor of physics and astronomy and former science writer for the Boston Globe. He shares, "Every accumulation of knowledge is full of rabbit holes. Enter a rabbit hole, quantum physics say, and that hole has its own rabbit holes leading to yet other exotic terrains. One doesn't have to be a Lord Kelvin or an Einstein to find a place to enter. A leaf of grass will provide ingress to infinity. The ancients believed that the stars were pinholes in the dome of the sky, through which shone the light of an outer, more wonderful world. And it is true. Every star is a rabbit hole into another world. In the course of a lifetime of starry nights, I could not explore them all. I lie on my back and the light of 10,000 stars enters my eyes. 10,000 subtle but distinct wavelets of energy enter my eyes at slightly different angles from out of the depths of space. And by some miracle, my eyes and brain sort it all out, put each star in its proper place, recognize the familiar patterns of constellations, and open my soul to a universe whose length and breadth exceed my wildest imaginings. Starlight falls upon me like a gentle rain. It blows across me like a furious wind. I am soaked and shaken. I have a friend who speaks of knowledge as an island in the sea of mystery. Let this then be the ground of my faith. All that we know now and forever, all scientific knowledge that we have of this world, or ever will have, is as an island in the sea, and still the mystery surrounds us." Our culture, American culture, Western culture, has a predisposition towards knowing. We like knowledge, we like science, we on the whole embrace reason. And I mean, it's good stuff. Who doesn't like knowing in advance what the weather is going to be? No one likes getting caught in the rain without an umbrella. And driving is certainly much less stressful these days with GPS and our phones, always knowing where we are, never having to wonder if you missed the soft left turn 0.2 of a mile past the brick church on the right. That's how we used to do directions if we're on the younger side of things, right? You get a whole little sheet of all those little things. Even knowing where someone is, if you're supposed to have coffee with someone and you get a flat tire, I don't have to sit there for half an hour or 45 minutes wondering where you are or whether you've ghosted me. You've called or texted me within minutes, letting me know we're going to have to reschedule. Certainly, having greater knowledge and understanding of health and medicine has allowed those of us with the privilege of access to modern medicine to live significantly longer lives. So there are many, many ways in which knowing things is good. And we like knowing in our culture in large part because it provides a sense of safety and control. Knowing is comfortable. Knowing means you can easily manage your expectations. Knowing means we can minimize unpleasant surprises. Knowing means we can hopefully fix problems that come up. Now, sometimes knowing versus not knowing, it's not good or bad. It's just a matter of preference or just neutral. For example, when it comes to surprise parties, there are some folks who hate surprises and would much rather know, and there are other people who would very much prefer the surprise and would be disappointed if they accidentally found out. And there's other cases where knowing versus not knowing is neutral or even produces a similar outcome. There's an old wisdom story about, well, I guess it's not that old if there's a scientist in it, but it's a wisdom story about a mystic and a scientist who both end up taking a hike on different days, right? So the mystic on the same path. So the mystic takes a hike on this path, and as he's walking along, after a while, he comes and sees this magnificent tree, and he had lots of shade, and he decides to sit down and take a break. And as he's sitting there, he's just like, wow, this is so wonderful. I'm connected with nature. This tree is behind me, and it's leaning on its sturdy trunk. The leaves are sheltering me. It's just that it has this beautiful experience, right, with this tree, and then goes on his merry way. And then a couple days later, the scientist comes along and hikes the same path, and about the same point starts getting a little tired, looking for a space to stop, and sits down under the same tree. And she sits down under the tree and is, pausing and thinking and thinks in her head, wow, it is so amazing how I breathe out oxygen and the tree takes in that oxygen, I breathe out carbon dioxide and the tree takes in that carbon dioxide and turns it into oxygen. And it's so amazing how the sunlight, the chlorophyll takes in the sunlight and that ends up powering all of life. Like the science of this is just so amazing. I'm so lucky to be here. Right? And so in both cases, they have this experience of awe and wonder, but coming from very different places of knowing versus not knowing. But there are times where knowing takes away from the experience. There are times where not knowing is actually better, which feels a little funny to me to even say out loud because our culture so much prefers and values knowing. But let me give you an example. Magic tricks, right? For many, there is simple pleasure and delight to be found in well-done magic tricks and witnessing the impossible happen right before our eyes, even though we know it's not real. For me, I really do enjoy a good magic trick, even though I know in my head that swords are really not going through people and that cards and balls and coins aren't actually disappearing into thin air. The problem is that every so often I see a trick and I can't help myself but try and Google to figure out how it works. And there was one trick on a magic show TV I watched one time, a mind-reading trick, where at the end of it all, the answer that the person mind read was found folded up in a piece of paper in the magician's shoe, right? And he had never taken off his shoe the entire time, right? So how did it end up there? Well, I couldn't help myself, and I looked up how it was done. And most of the time they don't post this stuff, but it turns out this guy had posted how he had an explainer. And it turned out that what he had done was he had cut off the sole of his shoe, just the front part, and put magnets on it. And then his assistant had written an answer, and then when he brought in the table at the end, the answer was on that piece of shoe, and he stepped on it, and the magnets clicked, right? Which is actually like really clever. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then it ruined the trick for me. Right? So like I got the thing, and you don't usually, if you try and find out, you don't usually get the answer. And I got the answer, and I was so excited that I got the answer, and I was like, oh, but it just doesn't seem that exciting anymore, the trick, right? When you know how it's done. And it's not just magic. Experts in a field can often feel this way. Theater majors sometimes have a harder time enjoying shows because they're more aware of everything going on behind the scenes. It's true for ministers in worship. It can be harder to enjoy a service that someone else is leading because you're so aware of all the mechanics and what's happening. True even for musicians. It can be hard for them to listen to music just for the sake of listening and relaxing into the pure enjoyment of it, given how much they know. Knowing is not always better. We also often fear the unknown. It comes back to our desire for comfort and safety. There is comfort and safety in the known and the possibility of failure or bad experiences in the unknown. Trying out new foods at a restaurant you frequent is a great example of this. Many of us, myself included, tend to order the same thing. We find that thing that we like and we get the same thing, or the same two things maybe, every time we go. But the thing is, if you get the same time every time you go and you only ever try the shrimp scampi, you might miss out on some really great food. Now, playing it safe in our menu choices will probably have a fairly minimal impact on our lives. But what about the bigger picture? What happens if our fear of having things not work too often trumps the possibility of finding something great? What if we miss out on jobs or friendships or relationships or experiences that might otherwise bring us tremendous joy and happiness because we stick with what we know? That was me about, 10 years ago now? Because for years and years, a close friend kept inviting me to come to yoga with her. She kept telling me she thought I'd really enjoy it and I should really try it out. And I was like, yeah, sure, maybe. And I kept not doing it for whatever reason. I resisted. And then finally, and this was years, I appreciate my friend being persistent. Finally, I said, okay, fine, I'll go. And I loved it, so much so that I became a certified yoga teacher myself. And then I was like, man, why did it take me like 8 years to say yes? I could have been doing this the whole time. Another friend of mine, a different one, used to say, always leave room for magic in your life. Because if we are too comfortable, if we always stick to what we know, if we fill up every moment with the known, there isn't room for magic in our lives. The unknown doesn't promise us magic in every moment. Sometimes the eggplant parm is going to be disappointing, and sometimes the hip-hop dance class that we try out just won't be a good fit for us. But sometimes when we try venturing into the unknown, we end up having a magical experience. Well, Western thought, especially since the Enlightenment, has worshipped at the altar of knowing and reason and science. Even reason and science often only point to how much we don't know. Ask a physicist how much we know for sure, and they'll tell you there's so much we don't know about the basic functioning of the universe. As many of you know, a prime example of this is dark matter. If you're not familiar with the concept, our understanding of the laws of physics does not match up with our observations of how the universe, stars, and planetary systems and galaxies are expanding. To make the math work, to make our observations make sense in the light of all we know to be true, up to 80% of the universe needs to be made up of dark matter. Matter which doesn't interact with any of the known and observable matter we can see or measure, matter which has never been observed or measured in any way by human beings. That's right. For our science to make sense, there's this magic kind of matter out there, which at least so far has been unsealed or unmeasurable to us in any way, shape, or form. We only know of this dark matter that must exist because of indirect observation, which is actually really incredible if you think about it. Given our advances in knowledge of the world and science in the past few centuries, even with all we know, there's more stuff in the universe that we know nothing about than there is stuff we can see and measure. Rich Wright is bringing us to the words from our second reading today from Professor of Physics and Astronomy Chet Ramo. Knowledge is an island in a sea of mystery, and still that mystery surrounds us. I love that metaphor, especially because it's so true, literally, in the case of dark matter, right? Theoretically, all around us. Could be here in the room with us right now. We don't know. While Western thought has been less excited about embracing this reality, religious traditions have had strands and branches that have valued and explored the unknown for centuries. There are strands of mysticism present in most of the world's major world religions. And we've already heard a little bit about, in our story for all ages, about Taoism, right, and the embrace of the unknown. And the very first line of the sacred text of Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, states, "The Tao that is the Tao is not the Tao." That's the very first thing, right? And it's because it's so hard to describe and so unknowable. Then there's the word mu in Japanese, which is used in Zen Buddhism. Mu means not yes, not no, something different and unknown, not a word we have in English. Robert Pirsig talks about the idea of mu in his book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. He wrote, "The Japanese word mu means no thing. It points outside the process of dualistic discrimination. Mu simply says, no class, not one, not zero, not yes, not no. It states that the context of the question is such that a yes and a no answer is in error and should not be given. Mu becomes appropriate when the context of the question becomes too small for the truth of an answer. When the Zen monk was asked whether a dog had Buddha nature, he said mu, meaning that if he answered either way, he was answering incorrectly. The Buddha nature, Pirsig concludes, cannot be captured by yes or no questions." The embrace of the unknown in the world's religions takes many forms. Journeys into the wilderness, times of unknowing and wandering without knowing the destination, are very common. The Jewish people wandered for years in the desert. Jesus took his own journey in the desert in Christianity. There are sacred journeys into unknowing and sacred learning that arises from them. Unitarian Universalism is somewhat unique in Western religious traditions in that we lean into the unknown with our shared value of embracing a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Committing to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning clearly implies that we do not know all there is to know, and that we continue to search throughout our lives. We are called to journey into the wilderness, maybe not all the time and every moment, but we know that the frontier is out there, and we are encouraged to regularly examine that frontier, that edge, that liminal space. Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Jennifer Gray reminds us, "Universal mystery, guide us away from the desire to shine light in all the corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we never see the stars." I fear, though, that even in our free and responsible search, that we fall into the Western cultural trap of valuing what we know over what we don't, and that we err too much on the side of knowledge, on the side of trying to shine the light of truth in all the corners. Knowing does indeed often illuminate. And if that is the only tool that we use, that too can obscure truths and realities. Too much light, too much knowing, and we miss the darkness, the mystery, the wonder that illuminates the stars. It is worth embracing the unknown. Not in a reckless way where we try everything and any new thing that comes our way, but sometimes we need to risk entering the unknown and uncertain so that we might discover or stumble upon the magic that is waiting out there for us in the world. Sometimes we might need to risk trying new food or new items on the menu because you never know when you might discover your most favorite food in the whole world that you never knew existed. Sometimes you might need to try a new spiritual practice, like yoga, even though it doesn't sound like your thing, because maybe it will make your soul sing. Sometimes it is worth risking our hearts in a romantic relationship, with heartbreak a very real possible outcome, because the joy and love we experience when we finally find the right person is so amazing. Sometimes maybe you should risk leaving a well-paying job for a new vocation with less financial certainty, because the new job might light up your life. Sometimes the unknown has gifts to offer us if we're willing to risk living with some uncertainty in our lives. And so it is that my invitation for us this morning is to embrace the mystery, to embrace the unknown, to embrace the uncertain. It is often uncomfortable for us to do so, but when we encounter those times in our lives when the path before us is unknown and uncertain, I'm hoping we can learn to embrace that uncertainty and to have a measure of trust in ourselves and in the world, that we will get there wherever there is, and that it will all work out in the end, whatever the outcome. Friends, if the mystery indeed surrounds us, and that certainly seems likely, given that 80% of what exists in the world in the universe is dark matter, if all our knowledge is indeed an island in a sea of mystery, I hope that we can follow with real intention the call in our shared values to be on a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I hope we can embrace and live into and embody that search. I hope we can embrace mystery and the unknown in the gifts they have to offer, even as leaning in can sometimes be scary and hard. If we can practice that embrace in our lives, we will not only expand the boundaries of our experience, we will also more regularly encounter joy, awe, and wonder. The promise of the potential for magic is worth the risk. The gifts of not knowing, the gifts of mystery are out there waiting for us. They're out there waiting for you. Are you ready? Are you willing? Will you answer the call?
With the offering, we exercise our individual generosity by contributing to the financial maintenance of this church and all its ministries. And we exercise our generosity as a congregation by donating 1/2 of all not otherwise specified funds collected each Sunday to other organizations whose aims are aligned with our values. This week's Share the Plate recipient is the Council for Social Concern, located in Woburn. Your order of service gives a brief description of the council and its activities, as well as listing all the different ways you can donate. Your generously given offering will now be gratefully received. Those who wish to do so are invited to join in the unison affirmation. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day, to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. Now please rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 1020 in the Teal hymnal, Woyaya.
Friends, let me just say one thing real quick. If you decide to try out some new food at a restaurant and you don't like it, please don't come blame me. I do want to hear about your experiences, but actually, look at it as a data point, right? Oh, I learned that I don't like risotto. Great, this is a new piece of information I have. So, just a little note there. But really, there is so much goodness and joy in the world, both in knowing and in the not knowing and in the mystery. And so I hope we can walk away from today with just a little bit more of an inclination to embrace the unknown and the mystery and welcome magic into our lives. Go and be blessed and be a blessing. Amen.
Please say with me the words for extinguishing the chalice printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This service is ended, but our life of service continues. Let's continue the conversation in the Sims room.